So, you've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel. Maybe you watched my previous video and something clicked. You thought to yourself, I could actually do this. But now you're here with that idea sitting in your mind and you're not quite sure what the first step looks like. Where do you begin? What do you say? What if you get it wrong? If that sounds familiar, you're in exactly the right place. If you're over 50 and thinking about starting a YouTube channel, this is exactly what you should do first. Because in this video, we're going to slow everything down and go through it properly. No pressure, no complicated steps, just a clear, simple way to move from thinking about it to actually starting. Welcome. Come on in, get comfy and let's sit for a while. I started my first YouTube channel from exactly where you are right now. Full of uncertainty, thinking about how to actually get started, about being in front of a camera, not liking the sound of my own voice. Am I too old? What would I talk about? But I took that leap of faith, and honestly, it was the best thing I could have done at that time. I got far more out of creating a YouTube channel than I ever thought was possible. I'm so pleased I took that leap of faith and just started. I want you to be able to experience some of the things I have since I started. Before we get into what to do, we need to talk about what's holding you back. Because most people don't struggle with how to start. They struggle with what's going on in their mind. You might be thinking things like, I wouldn't know what to say. I'm not confident enough. I'm not good with technology. Who would even watch me? And underneath all of that, there's one bigger feeling. Uncertainty. Not knowing how it will go. Not knowing how you'll come across. Not knowing if it's worth doing. And that uncertainty creates hesitation, which then turns into delay. And before you know it, weeks or months pass. But here's something important to understand. You don't need certainty to start. You only need willingness. There's a big difference between thinking about starting a YouTube channel and actually starting one. Thinking keeps you safe. It allows you to imagine it without risk. But doing, even something small, moves you forward. And the moment you take that first step, everything changes. You go from, could I do this? To, I've started. That shift is powerful. Because once you've started, you're no longer on the outside looking in. You're part of it. A lot of people believe they need to have everything figured out before they begin. They think they need a clear niche, a full list of video ideas, and a big plan for the next few months. But that approach often leads to overthinking, and overthinking leads to inaction. Instead, I want you to think about this differently. You don't need a full plan. You need a starting point. That's it. Your channel will evolve naturally over time. Your ideas will improve. Your direction will become clearer. But none of that happens until you begin. One of the easiest ways to begin is to stop looking outward and start looking inward. You don't need to research topics. You don't need to follow trends. You already have everything you need. Think about what you've experienced, what you've learned, and what you've adapted to over time. These are your starting points. For example, you could talk about adjusting to retirement, how your daily routine has changed, lessons you've learned from work or life, how you stay active and manage your health, your thoughts on aging and mindset, your hobbies. This is how I started my YouTube channel. These are not complicated topics, but they are meaningful, and meaningful content connects. Here's something that stops a lot of people. They put too much importance on their first video. They think, it needs to be good. It needs to represent me properly. It needs to be worth watching. But your first video is not your final statement. It's your starting point. Think of it like this. Your first video is simply practice, experience, and a step forward. Nothing more. You will improve naturally over time, so instead of trying to make it perfect, just aim to make it real. Let's make this practical. If you were to film your first video today, here's a very simple structure you can follow. 1. A short introduction. Who you are and why you're making the video. 2. A bit about your life. Just enough for people to understand your background. 3. Why you decided to start a channel. What made you take this step? 4. What you'd like to talk about going forward. A few simple ideas. 5. A gentle closing. Invite people to follow along if they relate. That's it. No complexity, no pressure. This is why many people hesitate. They think, I need better equipment first, and I should learn editing before I start. But in reality, you don't need any of that to begin. You can start with your phone, natural light, and quiet space. That's more than enough. In fact, starting simple is better because it allows you to focus on what really matters, what you're saying. Perhaps you could go for a walk and chat to the camera or the phone on your walk. Maybe you could sit in your garden whilst you chat. Or you could simply sit on a bench in the park and chat away. This keeps it very informal and natural, and also gives viewers things to look at, rather than just sitting in your kitchen with nothing happening in the background. I'm not saying you can't sit in your kitchen. I just think it keeps things interesting to have some changes along the way. Even if you can't get out of your home, you could perhaps change the rooms you record in. A point to note here, if you are recording on your phone, for example, remember to look at the actual lens of the camera and not at the screen. That way, it will make it feel more personal because you'll be looking at the viewer rather than looking to one side. Have a practice to get comfortable with talking on camera. Not with something you will upload to YouTube, but just to get you used to how it feels. Just chat away about anything you think of and then play it back to yourself and see how it looks and sounds. Are you looking at the camera? Are you talking loud enough? You can always adjust the volume later if need be. Most smartphones have basic video editing software, or you could use apps like CapCut or InShot. None of these are difficult to use, but if you are starting as a complete beginner, then you will find plenty of tutorials on YouTube for the one you decide to use. Let's be honest, your first video might feel uncomfortable. You might not like how your voice sounds, or feel unsure where to look, or pause more than you expected. That's completely normal. Everyone experiences this at the beginning, and it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing something new, and anything new takes time to feel natural. You don't need to make a long video. You don't need to cover everything. You don't need to impress anyone. Start small. A simple video, a simple message, a simple beginning. Because small steps are sustainable, and sustainable steps lead to progress. So if you're at that point where you're thinking, I'd like to start, but I'm not sure how, remember this. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need confidence before you begin. You don't need the perfect setup. You just need to take one step, and that step could be as simple as recording your first video. But for now, just consider this. You're closer than you think. Let's imagine something. You've recorded your first video, you've uploaded it, and now you wait. Maybe you check it a few times. Maybe you wonder if anyone will watch it. Maybe you even feel a mix of excitement and doubt. This stage is completely normal, and it's where many people quietly stop. Not because they can't do it, but because they're unsure what to do next. So let's make that clear. After your first video, your job is very simple. Make the second one. That's it. Not perfecting the first, not analysing every detail, just moving forward. It might sound surprising, but your second video is actually more important than your first. Why? Because it proves something. It proves that you're not just trying this, you're continuing. And that's where confidence starts to build. The first video is about starting. The second video is about commitment. And once you've made two, making a third becomes easier. Confidence is not something you wait for. It's something you build. And you build it through repetition. Each time you record a video, you speak a little more naturally. You think a little more clearly. And you worry a little less. At first, you might feel very aware of yourself. But over time, that awareness fades and something else replaces it. Comfort. You begin to relax into it, and that's when your voice becomes stronger and more natural. Try to talk as if you would when talking to a friend or a family member. If a friend asked you to tell them about a subject you knew about, you would talk naturally about the subject. That's what you're aiming for in your videos. Now, let's talk about something that affects almost everyone. Low views. When you start, your videos might get very few views, no comments, and little to no response. And it's easy to think, maybe this isn't working. But here's what's really happening. You're in the early stage, and in this stage you're learning, you're improving, and you're building something slowly. Every successful channel went through this phase. The difference is, they didn't stop. So instead of focusing on views, focus on progress. At the beginning, your focus should be on 3 simple things. 1. Speak clearly. Take your time. Don't rush. 2. Sharing something meaningful. Even if it's small, make it honest. 3. Finishing what you start. Record it, upload it, move on to the next. That's all you need to focus on. Not numbers, not perfection, just those 3 things. One of the best ways to keep going is to create a routine that feels manageable. Not demanding, not overwhelming. Something like 1 video per week or 1 every 2 weeks. Choose what feels realistic for you and stick to it, because consistency creates rhythm, and rhythm makes everything easier. This is very important. You are not under pressure. You are not being judged. You are not competing with anyone. This is your space, your pace, your voice. So allow yourself to take your time, speak naturally and improve gradually. When you remove pressure, you make it far more likely that you'll continue. At the beginning, you might feel like you're searching for ideas, But something interesting happens once you start creating regularly. Ideas begin to appear naturally. You might find yourself thinking, that could be a video. I could talk about that experience. That might help someone. And suddenly, you're not forcing ideas anymore. They're coming to you because you've shifted into a different mindset. You're now creating, not just thinking. You might think of an idea for a video or a point you want to mention in a video whilst you're doing your shopping or just before you fall asleep at night. I highly recommend that you write it down immediately. Honestly, the amount of times I've thought of an idea and then thought I'd write it down later, only to forget what the idea was. It's so frustrating. So I make a point of either writing it in my phone notes or doing a voice note straight away now. It's surprising how the ideas start building up once you start making notes of ideas. When you've started making and uploading your videos, you might find you want to make some changes. You don't need to change everything at once. Just improve one small thing at a time. For example, speak a little more clearly. Sit in better lighting. Structure your thoughts slightly better. These small improvements add up, and over time they make a noticeable difference. One habit that will help you more than anything else is finishing your videos. Not starting them, finishing them. Recording, uploading, publishing. Because every finished video builds experience, confidence, momentum. And momentum is what keeps you going. In the early stages, growth is not always visible, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. Behind the scenes, you are becoming more confident whilst learning how to express yourself and getting more comfortable on camera. These are real improvements, even if the numbers don't show it yet. Let's keep this simple. After your first video, your job is not to be perfect. It's not to go viral. It's not to figure everything out. Your job is to continue, one video at a time, one step at a time, because that's how something small turns into something meaningful. You've gone from simply thinking about starting to understanding how to actually begin and how to keep going. Now, in this final part, I want to take a step back, because this isn't just about making videos. It's about what's happening when you stick with it, what this can become over time, and why this decision, simple as it seems, can have a much bigger impact on your life than you might expect. At first, starting a YouTube channel might seem like a small thing. Just recording videos, uploading them, seeing what happens. But over time it becomes something more. It becomes a habit, a routine, a form of expression. And eventually it becomes part of your life. Not in a stressful way, but in a steady, meaningful way. Something that gives your week a sense of direction. At this stage in life, many people find that a lot of structure disappears. Work slows down or stops. Responsibilities change. And sometimes there's a feeling of, what now? Having something that's yours, something you're building, however small, can make a real difference. This is what happened when I started my first YouTube channel. I'd wanted to start one for a long time, but like most people, I put it off for far too long. I was overcomplicating this, when it really wasn't complicated at all. I'm an avid crafter, so it made complete sense to create my channel around what I already do. So my channel name is Tilly Douglas. Nothing fancy, just my name. The channel name is another thing a lot of people overthink, and it often delays them getting started. I decided just to keep it simple. My YouTube channel became something so much more than I ever expected it to. It became an outlet for my crafting ideas. It earned me a side income. It made me part of a community. And I've made real lifelong friends from it. I love recording videos. And now I also have this channel, which is something completely different for me. Having your own channel is something you control. There's no pressure from outside, no deadlines you didn't choose, just something you return to at your own pace. At the beginning, you might feel unsure. You might question what you're saying, how you sound, or whether it makes sense. But something happens when you keep going. Your voice becomes clearer. You begin to speak with more confidence, organise your thoughts more easily, and express yourself more naturally. And over time, you stop doubting whether your voice matters, because you see that it does. When you start, you might think, I'm just making videos. But to someone watching, it can mean much more. Your video might help someone feel less alone, give someone reassurance, offer perspective they needed, help them solve a problem, teach them a new skill. And you may not even realise the impact you're having. Sometimes it shows up in a simple comment. Sometimes it doesn't show up at all. But it's there. And that's something quite powerful. Let's look ahead for a moment. Imagine you continue with this. Not perfectly, not quickly, just consistently. A year from now, you could have a dozen videos. A growing sense of confidence, people who regularly watch and listen, a body of work that didn't exist before. And all of that started with one simple decision: to begin. A lot of people believe success comes from talent, but on YouTube, especially in this kind of content, consistency matters far more, because consistency builds trust, improves your skills, and creates momentum. You don't need to be the best. You just need to keep going. And that's something completely within your control. At some point, you might find yourself comparing, looking at other channels and thinking, they're better than me. They're more confident. They've grown faster. But comparison doesn't help you, because your journey is different. You're not trying to be someone else. You're simply sharing your own experience. And that's what makes your content valuable. Over time, this can become more than just videos. It can become something meaningful in your life. Something that creates an income and connects you with others. But even beyond that, it gives you something many people are searching for: purpose. When you look back at this time in the future, you probably won't remember the exact words of your first video, how it looked, or how many views it got. What you'll remember is that you started, because starting is the moment everything changes. It's the point where an idea becomes something real. So let's make this practical. If you're watching this and you're still thinking about it, here's all you need to do next. Choose a simple idea, record a short video, upload it. That's your first step. After that, make another, and then another. No pressure, no rush, just steady progress. So here we are. You've seen why you can do this, how to start, how to keep going, and what it can become over time. And now it comes down to one simple thing: your decision. Not a big dramatic decision, just a small one. To begin. Because you don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to feel completely ready. You just need to take that first step and see where it leads. If you're thinking about starting, let me know in the comments. And if you've already taken that first step, I'd genuinely love to hear how it went. The next video in this mini YouTube series is what no one tells you about starting YouTube later in life. I will help you avoid some of the common mistakes so that your new channel is a roaring success. Please feel free to subscribe so you don't miss that one coming out. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. Take gentle care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.